What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of What's on Second, a True Baseball podcast, the trade deadline edition of the show. It is Richie and Michael joining you on the diamond once again. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, fantastic. A little befuddled, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit.
Oh, I know you're befuddled, and that's just because as we record this show, as we release the video for this show too, which we will not bury the lead, we'll just announce it right now. We have a YouTube, everybody. Please go follow it. It
Woo!
will be up on. It is literally just What's on Second dot baseball pod on YouTube. Take a look. It's at What's on Second baseball pod as well if you're searching for it that way on there. But please go take a look, give it a follow, give it a subscribe, check it out. You'll get to actually see our faces and see what kind of chaos we ensue while we record
I'm
these
so
shows.
sorry about that.
Yeah, well, so am I. But I mean, hey, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do some live shows coming up here soon. I know for fact we have some ideas on live shows we're gonna do on the road as well. So maybe we'll actually be live together doing a show, which would be pretty crazy. But
Oh, absolutely.
irregardless, here we go. Michael, what do we got on the docket today? Even though I kind of buried the lead by saying it's the deadline show. So what do we got on the lineup card?
It's the deadline show. Don't choke on your
Wow.
drink.
Wow.
So this
Who
is going to
knew?
be it's going to be a special edition of What's on Second, a True Baseball podcast. We've done a blog talk episode before earlier in the season, and this time around we're going to do another blog talk episode, except for this is a trade talk episode. It's just going to be us kind of spitballing about what's happened over the last week since our last episode, which I'm bad. I haven't finished editing it, but it's going to come out to you soon within the next couple of days.
Yes.
And it's a good one. We talk about what we thought all 30 teams should kind of do approaching this deadline, and one of them is already kind of making me angry. However, we're just going to kind of give our opinions on what has happened, what is potentially coming up the pipeline. If this is a short episode, great. If it's a long episode, even better. Who cares? We definitely don't.
Obviously, we've buried that lead many a times on this.
Oh God, yeah. But we'll kind of start this episode of What's on Second off talking about the most recent trade, which was by the Arizona Diamondbacks. They
literally minutes before we got on here.
Oh, absolutely. They just swung a trade to acquire Paul Sewald from the Mariners, and they are sending Josh Rojas, Ryan Bliss, and Dominic Canzone. I think I'm pronouncing that right, or it might be Canzone.
Close enough.
Yeah. To Seattle in return for Paul. I think it's a fantastic trade. It helps get them a bullpen piece that they really, really needed. I mean, they have a good offense, they have a good defense.
It's a great deal.
Their starting staff is good. We just have to wait and see, kind of if they pull any more moves. I would have to think that they're not done, but there's going to be a lot of moving pieces coming down the pipeline here.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces around there. It's a great deal for Arizona. They needed to do a deal like that to bolster that bullpen. I think it's a great move. All in all, they didn't really give up too much for it either, which is the biggest thing. We're always like watching these moves to see who gives up more than anything. The fact that the only thing you really gave up is prospects for this kind of lets you know now that the Mariners are in full sell mode, which is kind of sad for a team that just went to the playoffs for the first time in 30 years a year ago, and now they're in sell mode with Julio signed to a huge deal. Now, it could just be a minor thing for them. It might just be this year is lost. Let's sell small pieces, and then we'll try to come back next year. I don't think they're fully out of anything by any stretch of the imagination as far as in the future, but definitely a smart move. Get Sewald off the books. You have and they have Andres Munoz anyway. That's pretty much taken over that closer role in the end. So I don't think anybody's going to be too surprised that Munoz is going to now shut down every game for the Seattle at this point. And Sewald will go here and either be the setup man for Arizona or he'll be the closer. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens when he gets there. But I mean, they have had a good year out of Chafin so far, the lefty.
I agree. If anything, I was surprised at the beginning of the year that they didn't have Munoz as the closer because he did so well last year, kind of finally brought his name to the forefront, and we saw what he was able to bring. And like you said, he's shut down, he's lights out. And then Paul Sewald, I'm pretty sure, was a starter at one point with Mets, and then went over to Seattle. And I thought that was not necessarily a joke, but that they, for those of you that are going to see this when it comes onto YouTube, and then for future references and live streams,
sidebar.
Yes, this is a sidebar. We both and like
A
crazy. You
lot.
don't hear it in the podcast.
We clean up the podcast a lot.
Yes, we do. Which is why it takes a while sometimes to get out there. But and also we ramble, and that gets cut out. However, back to the topic. I didn't think it was going to be that good of a move putting him in the bullpen, let alone making him a closer, and he has very much so shown me up in that regard. So, great move. What do you think, if anything, that Arizona does extra?
Extra, I mean, it could be another bullpen piece, but I don't really think I see anything else. I don't think they have enough capital left. They haven't given away a lot, obviously, because this deal for Seawald was next to nothing. It was minor pieces and I think a bench piece at most, if I read that correct. So it's next to nothing. Seawald's a great pickup. Also, the fact that the reason that Seawald was doing more closing this year as well was because Munoz got hurt early on in the year, so he was out for the better part of a month. I think month and a half. So that has a big indication on why he did that with those going on. But it's a great move, in my opinion, for Arizona. And we'll see what Seattle does next year. I think Seattle's kind of letting this year ride off into the sunset because Texas and we're going to talk about a lot in here in a couple minutes, as well as Houston are pretty much running away. It's a 2-team race. One's going wild card, one's going to the West title. But with that being said, we had another deal happen earlier on today, and it was not a deal that Michael's really excited to talk about, but I'm going to bring it up because it has to be said. Basically, what we're going to do is just go down the list of all these deals that have happened. And I was going to ask if we were going to go from oldest to newest, but I think we're going from newest to oldest, and I like that better anyway. So Michael made a decision, and we roll with it. This is why he makes the lineup cards. Anyway, as well today, the Rays acquired right-handed pitcher Aaron Savali from the Guardians for first baseman Kyle Manzardo. Savali's joining the Rays staff, which has actually been struggling recently, had a lot of injuries, which is not a good thing. So he joins a Rays staff that has lost starters Drew Rasmussen and Jeffrey Springs for the year due to injury, as well as you've had other injuries throughout the year with, I know Zach Eflin's done a brief stint on the IL. Shane McClanahan's just coming back. All these people are here for this. What did the Guardians get in return but the 37th prospect in baseball, which is a great move in that situation. And we always know that the Rays know how to draft really well because they obviously never sign anybody. So they have to draft Zach Eflin. Unless your name's Zach Eflin. For the biggest contract of their ever free agent signing at $40 million. Cannot make this up. But with that being said, Manzardo was the Rays minor league player of the year last year. He's a lefty first baseman, slugged 22 homers, registered a 1.043 OPS between high A and double A last year. He hasn't experienced as much success in 2023. He's got a 238 average, 342 OBP, 442 slash line in 73 games in AAA. But he did just turn 23 earlier this month. Basically, he's hitting big boy ball now, and we're seeing what he's got. It's not the end of the world. I think, if anything, the Guardians have a great system that he can thrive in. Give him time. He's not meant to come up this year. He's meant to be a piece for the future for the Guardians now. I know you hate this deal because I think you were kind of loving Savali because Savali was all of a sudden learning how to pitch to a high level. So I'm going to let the floor be yours on this. To let me know how you really feel about this deal, because I know you're not a Wild fan.
So I'm not a Wild fan of it. I don't necessarily hate it. I just don't know what the team is doing.
That's a good point.
In one point, they're not punting on the season because the AL Central is just doo-doo. Like,
Oh,
we've
it's
said
awful, as
before.
we say every week.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at what they're doing. They have McKenzie and Bieber and Quantrill all on the IL still, with some sort of return date towards the end of this month, I think, if not into September. But the big caveat with all of this is this innings limit with in regards to Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, and Logan T. Allen.
Oh, I didn't know
So
about this, so do inform me.
I'm assuming this innings limit comes around the service time bullcrap that we have talked about a couple of times
Oh,
on this
many a
show.
time.
But rookies are considered eligible in the MLB if they have under 130 at bats or under 50 innings pitched and have less than 45 days on the active roster. So those three are going to come right around that limit on sometime in September. Bybee and Allen much sooner than Gavin Williams. But my thing is, when it comes September, one, you are hinging your playoff run this year on, if anything,
Kids.
Shane Bieber coming back. Uh, Not only him coming back, but resembling the Bieber from the past several years. Now he's not had a bad year this year, but he hasn't looked as sharp and dominant as he has per se in like his Cy Young campaign, and what made him so good since I think 2019 when he came up.
He and Nola have had
Um,
those kind of years this year where they're not good enough to be paid what they expect to be paid in the open market,
yeah,
especially on a contract year, but they're not bad either. And it would be ignorant to say that they don't deserve a payday.
yes. Shane Bieber is an ace, and I still will say if he goes to a team like Anaheim at some point or San Diego or just whatever contender, and they put him at 2, 3, or 4, that's just filthy and wrong on so many levels because he is so good. But he hasn't been what we've seen in years past this year. And now you throw that injury boogaloo into his mix, and it's okay. Now he isn't reliable in just in an injury sense, not pedigree and what he's
Right.
done before.
Right.
Then you look at Tristan McKenzie. He has only made a couple of starts. One was really good, one was really bad. I think he's only made 2 this year,
I was
maybe
going to
3.
say, I have only seen his two, one really
Yeah,
good, one very
one
forgettable.
bad. Uh, he is potentially coming back. He avoided Tommy John and anything crazy intrusive
Lucky guy.
into that arm. Tell me about it. But then you look at Cal Quantrill. He has not looked in any realm what he looked like last year. He has been up and down with injuries this year. Then we have an Avenger making his debut for the Guardians tonight. So you got the Guardians of Cleveland. Sorry, they're not up in the galaxy right now. I know it's hashtag and TM and all that, Disney and Marvel and all that. But uh, we have an Avenger joining our Guardian squad, and Noah Syndergaard is making his debut tonight. So you are hinging if you send those 3 rookies down in September, you are putting all that pressure on those 4 to show up and shoulder the burden of a team that does not score a lot of runs.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, there's a 5th starter that I don't know who that would exactly go to, especially now Savali gone. So you
Right.
would have to bring up another rookie that does not have playing time, maybe a Joey Cantillo or Cantillo. I don't know how it's pronounced yet. We'll find out whenever he makes his debut and the announcers tell us what they think it is. But
And hope they're right.
exactly. So there's a lot of unknowns, and you're hinging your starting pitching potential on 4 guys now that have been injured or that are going down off their primes in Syndergaard's case. So, I mean, Peyton Battenfield could come back. I don't know if he's had a surgery that ended the season or not. I've forgotten that in the moment, but he could theoretically take that spot, but he was up and down. And he doesn't have that experience that the other 3 rookies have gotten. So I understand, my biggest gripe with this trade is I don't know what the direction of the team is. Obviously, they want to contend. Antonetti's come out and said that he trusts this group of guys to contend. But I've seen enough talk about this innings limit come September that I don't know if Cleveland's going to just say, well, we're going for it because we're, as of today, I think a half game back. Minnesota doesn't play. So if we win tonight, we'll go into first place. I don't see how you can look fans in the eyes and say, we're trying to win the Central this year. And then come 3 to 4 weeks from now, say, okay, the 3 kids that are playing their butts off and helping us, we're sending them down to the minors because we don't want to
Invoke the service time.
Exactly. Which still, I understand. I disagree with that, but I get it. Just say, yeah, this year is probably not going to work out the way we were hoping it to. And if that's the case, I mean, I think they should kind of honestly trade Josh Bell regardless, because
what market could you get for Bell? I don't think he's got
but
a
that's
huge
the
market.
thing, though. He doesn't have a huge market. But if you can get something for him, great.
I mean, if anything, you're going to get some low level prospect that is either a project or is not predicted to do anything. Yeah. I mean, again, choice has to be made if you want to even bother with that. But I mean, I feel like he would be better on the team than getting nothing back.
Yeah. I mean,
and that would be figuratively nothing in that sense, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the course and the direction of this team entering the 2023 season was to contend, because we saw what they did last year. Obviously, they kept a majority of that core this year, but it just hasn't panned out offensively, and kind of surprisingly on the pitching side as well. We're going to get to the Noah Syndergaard trade here.
Oh yeah,
and in a little bit, because it does make a lot of sense. However, this one, I just don't understand their logic behind trading Savali if you're still wanting to contend for this year. We're not eliminated, so I get that we're still contending, but I'm failing to completely understand how it helps this year. Next year, I get it, especially if you send those 3 rookies down for the service time help. Totally understand. But if you make the playoffs, I don't know if service time counts with playoff innings or not.
I don't know either. That's interesting. That's a good question.
But if you make the playoffs and you can't use those 3 because it does count, then it even furthers the what are we doing here? Although I will admit, too, the catch-22 devil's advocate to this is, would Aaron Savali have really made that big a difference? At the end of the day, probably not, because the offense is so lackluster. You can't really say because you don't know until you get to October, but it's a little confusing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that's a fair point. And I think that's the real question is, what is the direction? So, I mean, sadly, we're going to have to wait and see with that. And we're going to have to see what happens here going forward. We'll see if it's a good deal or not going forward. But
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think at the end of the day, it's a good deal. It's just a normal trade scenario where you have to rely on a prospect materializing into what their potential is, because what's his name again? Kyle Manzardo. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. You have to assume he's going to turn his AAA numbers around. He raked in the minors, but he struggled so far since he's gotten AAA. However, he's only 22, 23 years old.
23.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got time to develop. I mean, we have Noel Jasinski, I think's his name, in the minors, coming up for our first base position. We can move people around, obviously. We can package guys in trades, but I understand why, and I think at the end of the day, it really actually was a good trade. It just sucks because Savali was our only really kind of consistent player or pitcher so far this year.
Yeah, I think the move is really just to get a bat for you guys in the future. He's a bat with pop, and that's exactly what the Guardians have lacked right now.
Yep.
Moving on, trade from yesterday, pretty big one. The Angels, who have signaled to the world, obviously earlier, that they are buyers and not sellers, because we were all wondering if Shohei was going to get dealt in this deal, in this trade deadline. He is off the market. They have actually bought like crazy recently, and yesterday was the biggest buy, in my opinion, for actual bats. Yesterday, the Angels acquired CJ Cron and Randall Grichuk from the Rockies for right-handed pitcher Jake Madden and left-handed pitcher Mason Albright. Basically, both those guys are for prospects. The Angels' number 8 prospect is Madden. Number 28 is Mason Albright. They're putting bats around around Shohei, and eventually when Trout comes back, Ward just went on. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, which I mean helps in a sense. I guess they have places for these guys to play, which is a wonderful idea. But, come back when everybody's healthy. If they can sneak into the playoffs, and when I say sneak into the playoffs, I think they're going to sneak in at a wild card. I don't think they're going to be
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Please do.
We have in the moment, breaking trade.
Hey, we love breaking trades. Go ahead.
The Brewers have reached a deal with the Mets to acquire outfielder Mark Canha in exchange for right-hander Justin Jarvis, who is Milwaukee's number 30 prospect.
All right. Well, we'll touch on that one first then.
Exactly.
Put the Angels one off to the side. And this is why we wish that, we were going to live stream this show, but sadly things happened with technology. But alas, here we are. So, this show's going right out as soon as we're done, though. It will be on our YouTube. Anyway, done rambling. Canha to the Brewers, great call. I think that's a great move by the Brewers. They obviously needed a bat. Canha's had a down year for sure. And the Mets are selling. I love it. It's the best day. It is a gorgeous day in the city of brotherly love when we see the Mets selling. And nothing was funnier than watching, and I know we're going to get to it, the Scherzer deal, and I'm just going to put a pin in that for later because what he said was great and just triggered everything. And that's hilarious to me. But anyway, Canha going to the Brewers. I think it's a great move by both sides. The Brewers obviously needed an outfielder with some bat help, and that's exactly what he brings. He's also a very good outfielder, in my opinion. But I do not. I mean, and a 30th prospect it's about what you would expect for Canha. It's not huge, but it's definitely something that's a piece that they could use in the future.
Especially considering Canha's a 34-year-old player.
Oh God,
and
yeah,
he's
and
a free
I think
agent.
He's a rental, yeah.
Yep, he's a free agent at the end of the year. I think for Canha, excuse me, he is a good vet piece to throw into that team, who's still very much in the mix of it. They're still going for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's hard to say because I think the Mets have come out and said we're not fire selling, or Steve Cohen has tried to say that.
Well, your actions tell me very differently.
I mean, I will give it to him that they haven't traded everyone
yet.
I don't see them trade. Tell me about it. I will take that word back and eat crow the minute that they say, yeah, we're trading Pete Alonso. But I don't see
that's never going to happen.
No, I think
he's still got plenty of stuff going on there. But
oh yeah, he'll be a career Met.
Yeah. Oh God.
Sorry.
Me.
But
anyway. Anyway, the Angels, back to that deal.
It's a good deal.
It's a good deal. Back to the Angels. CJ Cron, Randall Grichuk for Madden and Albright. The Rockies are in total fire sale mode. They are in fire sale mode. There's no doubt about that. We knew that coming into the into the trade deadline. I like the move. I think Cron is a great pickup for them because he's a good first baseman, but also a good pop bat. Grichuk's a perfect outfield kind of utility guy that they could slot anywhere. Especially with Ward now going down. I think it's a great bat that they can switch in and out. And I think Grichuk's a little bit better than Renfroe against right-handers. So that way they could sit Renfroe down. Renfroe kills lefties, but he's doing horrible against right-handers with everything going on this year. So all in all, I think it's an ultimate win for the Angels so far. I think it's two great bats. Shows Shohei they're serious. And if they're able to keep most of these guys, which I think both of these guys, if I'm not mistaken, are both rental pieces anyhow. If you can re-sign both of them, it just makes Shohei not want to leave. And I think that's a big key. I think the biggest thing is the Angels just need to get to the playoffs. I know they're showing that they want to do it, but they need to actually do it this year. They can't miss.
No, they can't. I think I think there is a shot if I had to go off of like any sort of a gut feeling that them showing Shohei, hey, we're trying. I don't really feel like this is entirely reaching too much. Has Randall Grichuk been what he was in like Toronto and St. Louis? No, but he's a solid bat in the lineup. CJ Cron has always been. I don't know why we have to call him sneaky good, but or that he's got sneaky pop, but he can hit the ball out of any ballpark. He's got some serious pop in that bat. So I think this is a good move for Anaheim, but is it going to be enough to push them into the wild card or make some sort of a run? That remains to be seen.
If I had to guess on the run for the NL West, no. Run
No.
for the wild card, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've actually shown they can play right now this year. So we'll see here in due
I
time.
you would also have to they have to hope that Shohei realizes that there's a lot of injuries and that it's been out of their hands for the most
Correct.
part, at least.
Yeah, a lot of this has been out of their hands, unfortunately.
Yeah. But
Unless they need new trainers. I mean, other than that, that's the only thing I can think of.
That too. There was another move yesterday. We're recording this on Monday the 31st. The Rangers acquired Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton from St. Louis. St. Louis is continuing their somewhat of a mini sale that
Yeah.
they've got going on. I think they took Nolan Arenado off the trade market. I don't 100%.
I don't think he was ever on it. They've sent Goldschmidt's off of it as well, but that one I'm not 100% believing yet.
There was
I'll believe that by 4 p.m. tomorrow.
6 p.m. our
6
time.
p.m. I'm sorry. Yes, 6 p.m. our time.
There was a lot of talk about LA looking into trying to get Nolan Arenado. I think that would be a great pickup for them. But we have to
fear that one if I was Nolan Arenado. I wouldn't want to go there just because it's just really the curse of every big superstar that goes to the LA Angels just goes there to die because they never can play.
Not the Angels, the Dodgers.
I'm sorry, the Dodgers. Yeah, but even then, still.
Yeah. But they also traded. Let's see how far down this goes. They did trade Jordan Hicks to the Blue Jays yesterday as well.
Yes.
And another, which I think is a great pickup for Toronto, to really bolster their run to try to get some sort of playoff berth.
Especially after they just lost Romano for a while too, because he just hit the IL.
Yep. Another trade discussion that has come up with St. Louis is centering around Dylan Carlson and trading him to Baltimore. I think that would be a great trade for Baltimore. Carlson's a switch hitting center fielder, has great potential, it has power potential, and can just really help Baltimore kind of cement their at least run in the AL East, but give them a great shot to try and make the playoffs if that deal goes through.
Completely agree. Other trades from yesterday. One other one. It's a very minor deal. The Braves acquired infielder Nicky Lopez from the Royals for Taylor Hearn. Basically, bench guy. Lopez can play all over the diamond. He's hitting 210 with 13 RBIs in 67 games this year. It's more for his defense than anything else. More than anything, and I mean, Hearn is a low level pitcher. Nothing to surprise there. Continuing on, we have the biggest deal possibly of the trade deadline so far, which happened on July 29th, which was the Rangers acquiring Max Scherzer from the Mets for infielder Luis Angel Acuna. Why does that name sound familiar? Did I butcher it? Try it. Fix me.
No, I was just going to say, because of what you're about to bring up, I'm not stealing your thunder. You take it.
Okay, fine. If that name sounds familiar of Luis Angel Acuna, it is because it is the younger brother of one Robert Acuna. He is going to be he is the younger brother of Acuna, who is going to probably win his first MVP this year, amongst a list of many things he's going to do this year for the first time. But Max Scherzer is heading to the Rangers. The Rangers have said we are all in. If there is ever a team that has said we are all in at the trade deadline, the Rangers are it. They have acquired Jordan Montgomery, Max Scherzer. I can't even remember now how many people they've gotten now because it's I mean, yeah, I forget. I'll find it later on down the list because they're definitely on here. But they have acquired so much pitching this off to go with that lineup. It is ridiculous right now. But Scherzer being sent, who waived his no trade deadline, raised his no trade clause for this deal to happen. He already exercised his 24 option for next year. So now it gives the Rangers 2 years of control, a half year this year, and then the full year next year of control on Scherzer. He is excited to be at a playoff team again. And he basically called out the Mets when Robertson got dealt. He said, what is the status of this team? You basically have just said that we're selling because you sold our closer. And when he said that, and the next statement was, I'm going to have a conversation with our brass upstairs to see what's going on and see where I go. I love this deal personally for both sides. For me, I think the Mets got fleeced in my opinion, unless Acuna. I mean, you hope Acuna is exactly what his brother is, but you can never tell. He's still in the minor leagues as of right now, so we'll see if he gets called up at all this year. Scherzer to the Rangers is a great thing. He's going to love that lineup. He's going to love pitching in that ballpark, which is a pitcher's ballpark, in my opinion, for the most part. It's all in all just a great pickup for the Rangers, in my opinion, to bolster that roster, especially since DeGrom is on the IL for the rest of the year. They went out and they got DeGrom's running mate and said, hey, remember how good that was in New York when you guys were both healthy and doing it? Hey, how about you try to do that here, except for we got a much better lineup even than the Mets do. And it's all healthy. So go for it. I think it's a great move by the Rangers. I think Max will do great there.
I agree. He's going to a team with a different culture. I still think a lot of his issues this year have been all mental around these new rule changes that have kind of upended the way he pitches. So he'll still have to get through that, but he's going with Bruce Bochy, a Hall of Fame to be manager who clearly had a lot left in the tank going to Texas.
Man, he just stepped in and all of a sudden Texas took off.
I know. And I mean, I remember back in 2010 when the Giants beat the Rangers in the World Series. I think it's almost kind of, an ironic kind of turnaround to where his first World Series title as manager was with San Francisco, beating Texas. Now, wouldn't it be crazy, but also really cool if he goes to the Rangers and leads them to a World Series title, which would be their first in franchise history in Arlington. So I'm really hoping that works out for Max and that Scherzer gets his second ring. I know he's senile at some point in the next few years. He's probably going to end up in a psych ward.
Every time you say it, it kills me.
Every
time.
You know what? We'll have to interview Max from the psych ward and whatnot in the future. But I freaking love watching that guy pitch.
I love that he's out of the NL East again. Thank God. Get him out of here.
Now you know how I feel when Scherzer was on Detroit and finally, after a while, got traded to Washington or he signed there.
No, he signed with Washington, but yeah.
That's right. But no, I think it's a great deal too. And like you said, Texas is really just pushing their chips to the middle of the table this year, which is what they should do.
I do have one funny thing here before we skip off of Max.
All right.
Max is the first pitcher that will be paid at least $15 million by 3 separate teams this year. He's getting, I saw this earlier. He gets paid $15 million because the Rangers are paying $15 million of his salary. He gets paid whatever the rest of his salary was from the Mets, which I think is like 20 some odd million and some change. And he's getting $24 million from the Nationals because it's all deferred money from his previous deal. So, well done, sir. Whoever your accountant is and whoever your agent is, just claps because that man gets paid the right way. I mean,
agreed.
Good Lord.
But moving on, a couple points to pick up before I go to the next. We go to the next trade.
Yeah.
Eloy Jimenez is drawing some interest from the Milwaukee Brewers and
Yep.
the Miami Marlins. I think
Hmm.
Chicago is going to be in a fire sale now.
Oh,
Both
they're
of the
already in fire sale, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if anything, with the Brewers just now trading for Mark Canna, that they might not be in that race.
Hmm.
But I think he would fit in both of those teams. Happy retirement to Bartolo Colon. I'm kind of surprised it lasted as long as it did, but at least we
Yeah,
got that
right.
iconic home run in San Diego.
Hey,
Um,
there it is.
Yep. But also, before we go to that next trade, just to get your opinion on this, apparently Adam Duvall is drawing some trade interest from the Philadelphia Phillies. What do you think
Hmm.
of that?
I think that's our one move that's going to happen this year. It needs to be a right-handed bat that can play in the outfield. Ideally, I mean, Bellinger would have been obviously the ideal one. I know he's a lefty, but that would have been the ideal one because he can switch between first base and outfield. But because he's not available anymore, because the Cubs have learned how to play baseball again, why? He's off the market as well. He should be. I thought the Cubs shouldn't trade anybody this year. I don't think they should have traded. I don't think they should trade Stroman, even though he's tentatively still on the market.
Yeah.
But I think that it's the right move. So I would love Duvall. I think Duvall would play really well in Philly. I think he would be a great piece. I think he would end up playing left field more than anything. It gets Schwarber out of the DH spot. It gets Harper to play first base on a more regular basis, which is happening now more and
Yep.
more, which is great. I love the idea. I think it would be
Hmm.
a great move.
I
I'm
agree.
all for that signing. As well as I know we keep on hearing the rumors about Goldschmidt. I really don't actually want that deal to happen for the Phillies because I think it would relegate Harper then back to DH only, which then means Schwarber has to play left field, which is not good,
Hmm.
all things considered. So
Yeah.
I would love that. I also think we need another starting pitcher. In my opinion, I would have loved for them to go sign or trade for Montgomery. Obviously, that's not happening anymore because, like we talked about, he's already going to Toronto. So, alas, we'll see what happens here coming up. But the Phillies have been very quiet, seeing as it's the day before the deadline and they have not made any moves yet. So we'll see. They may hold pat, which I don't know if is the right move or is the right move. The one thing that is a caveat here, and I will tell you very seriously, is Rhys Hoskins has been reported to be ahead of his rehab progress, which would be a
Impressive.
very big thing because he would definitely need a DH. There's no way he can play a field position right now. But
Yeah.
if that's the case, he could DH, throw Schwarber in left, and kind of play with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that could happen. I would love Duvall, though. I think that would be a good piece to acquire.
I agree.
Going down the
Um,
list here. Oh, do you
yep.
have more? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to bring up the next trade.
All
Um,
right. Well, you read my mind then. The Astros acquired Kendall Graveman from the White Sox for Corey Lee as part of
yep.
that Chicago fire sale we were talking about.
Oh yeah.
Nothing really surprising. Astros needed a pitcher. They're decimated by pitching injuries this year.
Yep.
White Sox get a prospect. Yep, they do. The Dodgers acquire Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly from the White Sox for Nick Nestrini, Jordan Leisure, and Trace Thompson, outfielder. Trace Thompson, obviously, if that name sounds familiar, that is the brother of Golden State Warriors guard
Hmm.
Clay Thompson. I
Yep.
almost butchered his name. But overall, I think a smart move here. I don't know. I think a better move for the White Sox, in my opinion, than the Dodgers. Joe Kelly's not a bad pickup, but I don't know about Lance Lynn. I
Hmm.
think you're just basically replacing what Noah Syndergaard was. They're both having
Yeah, I
bad
agree.
years.
I would give more
Yeah.
credence though to Lance Lynn and say that a change of scenery
Oh
plus
God, yes.
knowing he's going to have more run support, I think might actually help him out.
I would agree. I think that's the case here. With that, the trade that started all the fire sale for the Mets, that basically sent Mad Max off the Richter scale, was the Marlins, who the wonderful Phillies play today. I'm so excited. The Marlins acquired David Robertson from the Mets for infielder Marco Vargas and Ronald Hernandez. Um, those two guys are basically nothings, in my opinion. Robertson, again, another is going to be a rental for them for the year. I think it's a great move by the Marlins. They need some pitching depth. They have no closer right now. Puck has been giving up runs like crazy. I think
Mhm.
it's time to have Robertson become the closer. Puck becomes the setup man. All things end well there for them in that situation.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there.
A small
The
deal that was done, not to
Yeah, go ahead.
interrupt you,
No, please go.
was the Rangers acquired Kevin Plawecki from the Padres to help bolster their catching depth,
Yep.
with Jonah Heim missing at least 2 to 3 weeks with a wrist strain, with the possibility of surgery being an option. I think that would
Ooh.
be
Hmm.
absolutely horrendous to see, because Jonah Heim's been so good this year, making the All-Star team, and with just how well the Rangers have played. So we hope the best. Hope to see
Yeah.
Jonah heal up, but small trade there.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh Brewers acquire Carlos Santana from the Pirates for shortstop Johnny Severino.
Mm-hmm.
Basically flipping senior guy for senior guy, in my opinion. Santana's not done much this year. 235, 321, 412 with the 12 home runs in Pittsburgh. I think more than anything, I think Rowdy Tellez is more or less seen as just a guy that's been mainly a DH, and he's also been out for a lot of this year because of forearm and finger injuries. Owen Miller's
Mm-hmm.
been taking the share of time at there, but he's kind of more of a utility guy than he is a first baseman, in my opinion. He's more of like a
I
second
agree.
baseman permanently.
I agree.
The Rangers on July 26th acquired Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez from the White Sox for Kai Busch and Edgar Cuero. This was a great move. This was also the move that basically signaled that we are no longer in sell mode. We are in buy mode for the Rangers for the first time
Yep.
in years. Uh, as they acquired Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez. Giolito's had a decent year by all standards in Chicago, as good as you can do.
Yeah.
But 3.79 ERA with 131 strikeouts and 121 innings all day long. Put him on my team. I'll sign him up tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Great move. With
I
that
do
one.
have to correct you. It was not the Rangers that acquired Giolito and Lopez.
Oh,
It
I'm
was
sorry. I
the
said the
Angels.
Rangers. I meant the Angels. I apologize.
Yep.
I'm losing
No,
my
you're
mind.
good.
Thank you for correcting me. Yes, it is the
Absolutely.
Angels. I said it was because they were buying for Otani, but hey,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Anyway.
Another trade scenario that the Angels have apparently discussed is with the Nationals for Jamer Candelario, which would be a really good move, I think.
I think that would be a good move because Candelario can play that third base role, but also can play second when you have a healthy Anthony Rendon.
Yep.
If you ever find a healthy Anthony Rendon again, with
Big if.
that. Going on, the Dodgers on July 26th acquired shortstop Ahmed Rosario from the Guardians for Noah Syndergaard and cash. I thought this was a good deal, in my opinion, as my
Mm-hmm.
dog leaves the couch behind me. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
that view, buddy. Anyhow, I think it's a great deal. I actually think Rosario was kind of the perfect tradeaway piece. I don't think he needs to go to the Dodgers. I thought that was a very weird move, seeing as they just got Kike Hernandez earlier in that day. But that's their choice. I think Syndergaard, if there's any team that can fix Syndergaard, truly, it's the Guardians. They have a great pitching staff. They've developed all those pitchers, as we've mentioned earlier in the show. I think that he could do really well, and I think you guys could teach him how to throw with stuff as
Yeah.
opposed to throwing with heat. Because I think that's his problem. His problem is he still thinks he can throw with his heat that he doesn't have. He tops out at 92. That
Yeah.
ain't going to do it heat-wise. You got to be able to dot those fastballs, and then you better be able to throw that wicked slider that he does have. He's got a dirty slider. Watching him last year, he's got those off-speed pitches that could do it and fool people. He just needs to locate the fastball better, and he needs to stop throwing it down the middle of the flipping plate, relying on speed.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. I think I think he could be really good for you guys in Cleveland. I think Rosario is overrated. I think his metrics, all his advanced stats were booty. I'm going to be really honest with you when I looked at him.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you guys got him out of there for a decent piece in return. I think Syndergaard still has a club option, if I'm correct on that. He either has a club option or he has 1 year of definite remaining on that contract. I couldn't remember if I think he signed a 2-year deal, or at least it was a 1 and a club option.
So let's see. Right here it says MLB.com trade or MLB said Los Angeles took a shot on a rebound in free agency when they inked him to a 1-year, $13 million guarantee and installed him into the season opening rotation. So it does not seem as though he has another option or anything to extend his stay here.
Okay, but if you get him
unless
to
he
do what
extends.
I mean, I guess but if you guys get him going in the right way and he
Yeah.
becomes a great pitcher again, he'll sign. Hey, we won't even think twice with it. By the way, I think it's very interesting. Just a quick note before I give you the floor.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that for the second year in a row, Noah Syndergaard and David Robertson both moved on the trade deadline again. I just think that's kind of funny irony to me.
Yeah,
both
exactly.
were both on 1-year deals last year, both on 1-year deals this year. I just think it's funny irony. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So before we continue down the list, which we're getting close now to the timeline from last week and caught up on everything. We do have a couple of updates.
Okay.
The Cubs have acquired Jeimer Candelario.
Oh,
So
I didn't see this one come
off
through yet.
The market.
Okay.
Yep, he is. And the Giants are finalizing a deal to acquire AJ Pollock, Mark Mathis from the Mariners. So
Interesting.
the Mariners sale
Is on full sell now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, I mean, to be fair, AJ Pollock isn't what he used to be, but he can still help San Francisco out. I'm kind of surprised San Francisco's kind of going for it because Arizona and LA are playing so well, but
they're the top seed in the wild card right now. That's why
San Francisco is.
They're in that 5-team juggle race right now. That's why.
So those are the two current updates that we have. But continuing on the 26th as well, the Twins and Marlins swapped Jorge Lopez and Dylan Floro, a couple of relievers. I think that more so is just a change of scenery sort of thing. Not that either of them are doing horrible, but it's kind of that's one of those trades where it's just let's see what happens. Kind of like Rosario and Noah. I think it's what you said on that in terms of Cleveland, hopefully being able to fix and help Syndergaard's mechanics. I think that's a great way to look at it. I don't think we got Ahmed Rosario in the Lindor deal thinking that he was going to be our foreseeable future shortstop because he didn't have good metrics and good stats at that position defensively, which is partially why in what year was it, 2021 or I think 2021, whichever it was. Rosario was put into the outfield to try and see how he would transition out there, and Jimenez was initially the shortstop, which when he came up in the New York system, he was a shortstop. However, this move opens up Cleveland's opportunity to install Gabriel Arias as the shortstop,
correct?
Which I think is the best position defensively for him, maybe third base, but Jose is there, so we don't need to worry about it. But Arias has such a cannon and is so smooth in the infield. I didn't like seeing him out in right field, and especially with SpongeBob being back up here. With Will Brennan and Stephen Kwan and Miles Straw, it's going to be it's a little bit of a crowded outfield. So
absolutely.
So we have to just kind of wait and see how it all pans out. But that trade, I didn't mind at all. Like you, I thought it was a good one.
I did too. I thought it was a great one.
Yeah.
We mentioned that one. The Mariners acquired Trent Thornton from the Blue Jays for Mason McCoy. Again, pretty much really was just a swap of scenery more than anything. The This is again getting to the end of the things, end of our list here. I'm going to butcher his name. Mauricio Rivera from the Giants was acquired by the Red Sox for Marquez Johnson. And then the last big one here, we already mentioned last week, the Aroldis Chapman trade was on the last show. That will be will release soon. The Dodgers acquired Kike Hernandez from the Red Sox for Nick Robertson and Justin Hagenman.
Yep.
Really good move, I think that was the move they should have done. I didn't understand the Rosario move as soon as they did it after acquiring Kike, unless they're planning on moving Kike all over the place, because I know Kike can do that, but or unless they're making Rosario a backup piece. But other than
I think
yeah.
If I had to guess, I want to say, wasn't Hernandez always out in the outfield in LA?
For the most part, yeah. Because they always had Lux kind of sitting in the background, waiting to come up, and then they had this guy named Trey Turner, too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that pretty much covers it this week, guys. We want to thank you for coming out again. Start wrapping this show up. I know at some point, probably the rest of today, we're going to get some more deals. Obviously, the deadline's tomorrow, so we are going to probably get a ton of deals come 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the trade deadline hits. And we don't have a waiver claim deadline like we used to now.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. Although I will say Cleveland had a good waiver claim in 2017 when they got Jay Bruce. That was fantastic. But again, guys, thanks for coming out, joining us on another edition of What's on Second, a true baseball podcast. Now you guys get to see me do that stupid thing where I put that dramatic little pause. I mean, this show could have so many nicknames. The and us guys, the dramatic pause wizards. I don't know, but that one, everyone kind of has a little bait line there, and that's mine. That I just stupidly came up with. Exactly. Even when we get to season 2 of What's on Second next year for the 2024 season, that's going to be one of those mainstays, kind of like, Richie. Although maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll kind of change it up a bit, and I'll do the intros next year.
We'll see. I don't know.
Honestly,
everybody kind of likes me screaming. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I'm sure that the people, when they come to their first episode of What's on Second, and they, if they don't realize that their volume is up a little high, and then they hear, "What's going on, everybody?" Like, you might have made a few people jump.
It's kind of my fun. It's kind of my game.
Exactly.
Hey, I stole the whole bit from the guys on High Hopes podcast. So they do a yo. So at least I do what's going on. No, you should hear some of these yos. These are some top-notch yos. I will have to play some for you.
Here, how about this? Y'all go check out that High Hopes podcast.
Yeah.
Hear those yos and tell us how much cooler they are than our What's on Second, a true baseball podcast. Or what's going on? But yours, see, your intro makes sense because we're What's on Second, and you go, what's going on? So it all fits.
It all fits.
But
I'm game planned.
We're just a couple of goobers. It's all good.
Yeah, sweet.
But yeah, guys, thanks for listening to another edition of What's on Second, a true baseball podcast. I'm not going to overuse that's a lie. What's on Second, a true baseball podcast.
Yeah, he was definitely going to do it again.
Hit up those socials. Let us know how silly and dumb we are. What you think of these trades. Maybe I'm overreacting to Savali getting traded. Maybe Adam Duvall to the Phillies really isn't that good of a potential trade scenario for you Philly fans out there.
Maybe we'll jump on tomorrow and do a quick live show because we have no choice because we're so dang caught up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, hit up those socials. Let us know what you're thinking, and we'll see you next week out there on the diamond.